Welcome to the Odd Life Podcast. That's AWED, which stands for Awake, Well, and Empowered. We're here to have conversations to inspire women of all ages to live odd AF. I'm your host, Hallie, and thank you so much for being here. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Hallie, and we are here now for part 2 of the conversation with MaryJo Anderson. Hopefully you got a chance to listen to part 1. If you did not, please go back and listen. I really loved reading your comments and hearing what you thought about our conversation. I think you'll be excited about part 2 as well. We talk a lot about social media and showing up authentically and how to navigate being online in some of our relationships. There's a lot there to talk about. We also talk about some upcoming things she's got going on starting in October. So please stay tuned for that. So on to the rest of this conversation with MaryJo Anderson. Enjoy. I want to go back to the beginning. When you started getting on social media, was it just your personal account and you were sharing the kids, or how did you show up initially with your account?
So funny, when social media became a thing, I always revert back to it was Facebook first or MySpace, and there was a few others before that. It was 10 years ago in June that I started utilizing Instagram. I'd always shared photos of the kids on Facebook with family and friends. But when Instagram came around, I jumped on Instagram and was completely fascinated by it. Were you on 10 years ago? Do you date back to that? The original, I'm sure it was around probably like 12 years ago or so, or maybe even longer. But 10 years ago was the marker, a decade ago, where I jumped on. I started connecting with people instantly, locally, and then said to my husband shortly after we had bought the Bee's Nest down in Charleston, which we bought 10 years ago. We bought it with the intention that it was going to be a rental. It was going to be a side business of ours. It was a big risk financially for us to buy that property. And so we were like, let's buy this property. Let's rent it when we're not there. Let's utilize it with the kids. My husband's originally from the Knoxville area, but a lot of his family is from the Charleston area. So that's kind of like where he's from.
Sure.
So when we purchased that property, it was because it was already a second home for him his whole life.
Yep.
And so it was a huge risk that we did it. But around the exact time that we had bought the house is when I was utilizing Instagram to connect with people. And I started seeing how people were navigating this new kind of social media space, which if you had a small business, now obviously everybody uses it for business, period. But 10 years ago, mommy bloggers were like a huge thing at that point. That was one of the first things I remember when I was on Instagram specifically. I kind of looked around and it was like, there's a lot of moms that are blogging about their lives. I think they previously had blogs. I don't know if you followed blogs, but we decided not to put the rental property on Airbnb or VRBO. And I decided to just take it on as like my marketing project. So I had my personal page, and then I had the Bee's Nest page, and I just started utilizing Instagram to market the house. And how I did that was documenting our family's travels from New England down to Charleston. And quickly it built up over the first couple of years. And then I realized collaboration with other people that had bigger communities or bigger audiences and platforms. That was the goal, was to collaborate with people. And so that's what I did. I reached out blindly to a couple big influencers, some of which I'm sure you know, and offered them stays at the Bee's Nest for a week here and a week there for their family, their friends, whatever they chose. It was a very organic collaboration or partnership in my early years of Instagram. And after doing that several times, not only did the Bee's Nest become sustainable as far as rentals happen, but then that's where my community started to grow too. People, I think, started enjoying watching our family's life. We're a little wacky. We're a little over the place. I always say we have 3 kids. We have 3 dogs. At that point, we had 3 really beautiful properties, 2 that were rentals. Life on the exterior and as far as the Instagram grid looked kind of pretty. And so I just started growing my community off of personal connections, obviously. But the purpose of why I initially started using Instagram was just to connect with people. And then it slowly turned into a little bit of a business. But then I don't know about you, but I always have felt all these years that I've never wanted to be like a marketing agency and selling people stuff all the times. I don't really want to sell anybody anything, period. And so that's never really resonated deeply with me on why I use the platform and how I connect with people. I just share things that I like. I shared little snippets of my daily life. I know we chatted in the last conversation, but there's so much that I don't share. There's so much that I don't share. I think that's the case for a lot of people. I think the case for a lot of people is that, yeah, it is that highlight reel that everybody talks about. Certainly for me, that was the case early on. I can say that I share a little bit more in the past 2 years, but initially I shared the golden moments, the happy and joyous things about the kids, the sunrises, our homes. But the true intention of all of it over all of these years has been to connect with people. And I truly feel like I have done that. I have connected with some of the greatest people, some of my closest and dearest friends have found through Instagram. I have 3 sisters and a brother. I come from a huge family. I come from a community that I'm extremely involved in. And yet I have found some really incredible friends and people online as well through specifically Instagram.
That's what I did. I came on to connect as well. And then to be inspired to see a pretty picture or to realize, oh my gosh, that's a real place, someplace in the world that maybe now it's on my bucket list or things I would never have known. And sometimes that can be a detriment, right? Like I never would have known that. Now I'm feeling like left out. Darn it. Now I got to go to Greece or whatever that thing is. We talked about this in our conversation, but it's all about intention, how we use the app and what our intentions are behind using it. And sure, we get sucked into the scroll and all of that. But I have found some of the best people because of who they've shown up as online. And they do give the snippets. We have the stories, which give us an insight. It's sort of the behind the scenes, the funny jokes, and the insider info, which we all love. I mean, I initially was like, oh my gosh, we're trying to become TikTok over here. But now I love it because it does give me that little personal connection, the little everyday conversation. Like if you and I were sitting in the room, I feel like your stories allow me to feel like that. However, there is a fine line though of what you share and what you don't share because there is this, I don't need to air everything about my life online. And then as accounts get bigger and bigger, I don't know why we're looking to have, like once a person gets to a certain level, they have to dump their entire life onto a screen. It's like we have this expectation as followers now that we have access to you no matter what. And I really have enjoyed the way that you've done it because you have given us just enough without feeling you're having to divulge your entire life. And you're doing it in bits and pieces. And this part about your health, that's probably the most that you've given of the struggles. I mean, you joke about some things in life, kids going off to college and little kids, getting sick at home. Sure, the things we all experience, but the health crisis thing, that was a big step for you to share that. But I do appreciate the fact that it isn't dumping everything because I don't think we all need that. I mean, the world is giving us enough. We don't need to see it from every single person we follow on our social media apps. Like I said, there's a fine line of how much to share and what not to. Did you always have guardrails for yourself, or was it something that just developed over time?
I feel like when you talk about the fine line, there is such a fine line in social media and how much I share, or when you look around reading through the lines on how much other people are sharing, even just sharing more with you in this conversation, like about my health crisis or specifically about my marriage. Like I don't share a lot of those things. Not that I think everybody's struggling in life, but I have such a empathic heart where I feel like everybody is going through something. Everybody is going through something in their marriage and their life and their kids' lives that if you're just seeing a highlight reel as a consumer, because I'm consuming content all the time. I'm producing content and I'm consuming it as well too. But if I think someone's life is so perfect just from their stories, if you put my stories in an amount of time, it's usually 1 minute of my day. It's like 10 seconds here, 10 seconds there, 5 seconds there. And that's like the 1 minute of my day that I decided to share. And that goes for anybody that is producing content of any sort, whether it's like super authentic, organic or not. If you see through the smoke in that, that's just such a snippet of that person's life. I have friends that are big time creators and influencers, and I know so much more about them too. And it feels like as consumers, we are consuming and not seeing through the lines or seeing through the smoke in some sort of ways. So over the past 2 years, I've shared a little bit more, specifically being on this podcast and the previous podcast just recently and sharing about my health crisis. It's so refreshing to share that about my life. But also I've never felt like it's completely necessary to share it with everybody.
Yes.
And I feel that way because I'm always like, not that I don't want to burden people, but it's like everybody has so much going on in their own lives. It's like, they don't need my health crisis. They might be going through one of their own.
That's right.
In the snippets that I do share, what I think is so lovely is I feel such community. It feels like it's all women. It feels like it's the 50-plus-year-old woman. And it's like we're all in the same exact boat and we're so empathetic towards each other. So when you do share, anything that you're going through that's really hard, I always get a flood, especially over the last 2 years, a flood of people that are going through it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of sharing the hard things. That's like where kind of the gold is sometimes, on where you can maybe help somebody else.
Exactly.
Because you can relate to them. And so it's not that I don't want to dump all of it. It just seems like a big can of worms. And I always feel like a million other people are probably going through a lot of the same stuff. But a year ago, I know I had shared my Lyme journey, but I always love to give this example because I shared pretty publicly about my hysterectomy, which was 1 year
yeah,
ago.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
that was last March. So it was
God,
more
I
than a
didn't
year
even
ago.
think about that. That's on top
Yeah.
of all of this too. Holy shit.
That was another
Yes.
another chapter of my health. At 45, I've gone through, a total hysterectomy, and leading up to it I was suffering pretty bad with large fibroids. And what I'm realizing is literally most women have fibroids and they don't even know that they have them. I didn't know this until I was suffering pretty badly with this, too much information, but a prolapse was happening. And going through that process of having a hysterectomy and sharing it pretty publicly and in the moment, I think I had shared from the hospital bed because it was pretty serious, supposed to be a day surgery, and I ended up being in the hospital for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment I shared in the moment publicly about it, which I never did with my Lyme journey,
Yep.
but in this avenue of my health journey, I had never felt more connected to my community of women.
Yeah.
It was like I had people praying for me. I had hundreds of people. It was like I couldn't even get to a lot of it, which I feel so humbled by that. But I also I was so connected because so many women had gone through that. And so many a little bit older than me were kind of shocked, like, oh, you're young to be having a hysterectomy.
Mm-hmm.
But since I had shared about it, which again, that was a year ago, I have had so many conversations with women that are my age and a little bit younger that are going through it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a pure example of when we do share something a little bit harder, a little bit level deep, it could be a monsoon of support, love, all the things.
Yeah. And I think you're making a really good point about the things that you are sharing. If it's going to help somebody else, it's not a trauma dumping. You're not out here just spilling your guts about everything. It's intentional about what you are sharing because it's a big part of what you're going through. But also, if you can look at what you're sharing as somebody else is going through this same hard thing and they need a little support, or they didn't think about, oh my gosh, that pain I've had, maybe those are fibroids. I should go check this out rather than just suck it up every month or whatever that feels like. So I think things that you are sharing that's a bit more in depth about your life, it could be a way to connect with your community, but also it could be helpful. And I think that's a great way to look at it.
I know I'm in this zone of women's health, perimenopause and menopause. There's so many conversations floating around, and where I've been through so much with my autoimmune and Lyme and this hysterectomy, like I am in the trenches of women's health right now. Yeah. And so I'm feeling a little bit more called to share about it. Yeah. And when you turn on Instagram, I don't know if it's because, the algorithm and the phone's always listening, but, there's stuff that pops up all the time. There's so much information. There's so much information, and we're really lucky to have it. Our generation to have access and knowledge to true women's health, and in the roadmap, from my understanding, because of what I've gone through, is really complex. Even though we have a lot of information, it's a lot of information. Yes. And so talking about a little bit more and connecting to women specifically in the last couple of years about women's health has been, in the last 10 years that I've been on Instagram, it's actually been my most joyous. Yeah. It feels a little bit even more authentic. It feels like I am helping people a little bit more than just sharing snippets of life. So yeah, there is a fine line. There's a fine line in all of it.
Maybe just having to wait. I've got to get on the other side of this. And when I get on the other side of this, I'll share more about it because I'm going to have some knowledge and some helpful things to offer on the other side of it. But so I get that for sure. The other thing that you've done with your social media too is you have found a way to bring women together in your community. We all call this the Landon effect initially because you had Landon come down. And then your account blew up. And the next thing I know, you're part of this group. You hosted something. It was about love. And it had Jennifer Wilder. She had come and talked. So tell us about how that came. Because then all of a sudden, these things started happening for you. More of these events that were happening in your local community. And you were creating some things. So how did this all come about?
It's so funny. We go back to the question that you had asked earlier about, like, what were your early days like? And when I was on Instagram in the early days, I was sharing all different types of stuff about daily life in the Charleston house. But when I connected with Landon through dropping into her DMs and just saying, hey, I think at the time she had a few people on her Living with Landon team. And I said, if your family wants to come or want to come for a girls trip and you want to bring the team, like we have this great little property in Charleston. And at that point, I think Charleston was #1 city in the US a couple of years in a row. So it was like every woman under 90 that hadn't been to Charleston before was dying to go to Charleston.
Yes.
And so it was such a great organic connection that I had with Landon. She's such
Yep.
an incredible human, as we all know.
Yep.
But she went to the house, shared about the bee's nest. And then a lot of the people that were in her community came over to my community and are still here. And Landon's still one of my closest and dearest friends.
Yep.
I always love sharing the story because Landon used to host these big events down in Nashville.
Yes. Yeah.
They were around Christmas time. I think she had done it like 3 or 4 years in a row. She would partner with Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
And so shortly after she had gone to the bee's nest, her and I just had stayed connected and we became pretty quick friends. And she had hosted, I think, her third Make-A-Wish event down in Nashville. And I said, if there's anything I can do to support and be part of it, just let me know. And we came up with this idea. Let's give away the bee's nest to a group of women that are at the event. And so Bryce and I went down to Nashville. We're part of her event. I think there was 1,000 people or 3,000 people, but I remember being like, what is happening? I remember being like, she's an online social media influencer and she was having a live event. And that was the first time I had seen something so cool like that. Her community that she was building online, she brought in person and I got to be part of it and I got to see it firsthand. And I can remember saying to Bryce, like, I would love to do something like this. I would love to bring all of the women that I'm talking to, women, men, whoever, over the last few years. I'd love to bring them into a room together. And I don't know how I do that. I don't know what it looks like, but I was really, really inspired by what Landon was doing. And that was in December of 2019. And I came back to Boston. And in January, I told my sister, who I partner with a lot of events, she's an event planner. And I said, I want to do an event. I want to bring women into a room. I want to have some speakers. I'm just connecting to so many incredible people. And I'd love to have them all in one space in person. And so we put the event together. That was in January. The event was in February. It was 2 weeks before the pandemic. We got a space that held 100 people. And within a minute of us putting the event live, 100 people bought tickets. It was sold out within like 60 seconds. So I thought, like,
gosh,
it was so incredible. But it was incredible because the people that I was connecting to and people that are in my community, I don't think there was at the time a lot of community events. So it was such proof that women needed connection. They needed to be in the room. The conversation, no matter what it was about women's health or philanthropy or whatever it was, people wanted to get into the room and be in community with other women. And so my sister and I was able to spearhead an event in February of 2020. It was called From the Heart. You said it had to do something with love. It was called From the Heart and it was full of love. I'm like so impressed that you know that because that event was so meaningful to me. It really was. And so quickly we pivoted. We got out of the space that we initially had planned it at and we got a big warehouse. And we ended up just putting like a couple more 100 tickets up for sale. And so the room was filled with like 450 people, 450 women. And I think there was 2 men. But yeah, we had Jen was our opener, which she opened us with some conversations about just being mindful and meditation and all the beautiful things. And then we had my friend Bridget, It's a Hunt Life, who she's my dearest and closest friend. She was an original blogger back before Instagram ever became a thing. Her story is very complex, but it's incredibly beautiful. She was our middle speaker. And then we had another one of my friends who runs a nonprofit be our closer. And then we did a beautiful dinner for everybody afterwards. So it was an in-person event. It wasn't nearly as big and amazing as Landon's, but it was something that I spearheaded after seeing her bring women into a room. And I really fell in love with it. And then 2 weeks later, the pandemic happened. And so we were told you couldn't gather. Massachusetts at the time was over 20 people. So to gather women or to piggyback any events off of that one specific event, the dream was big after that one specific event. I wanted to do stuff like that continuously. But, you know, the world turned really crazy after that period of time. And so a year later is when we built the garden. And then a year after that is when we hosted our first event in the garden where it felt a little bit safer to gather people. And so for the last 4 years, when I host events, they're usually in my garden. They're usually collaborating with a dear friend like Libby Delana. We did her book launch, her Do Walk book launch, which was, again, it was women in our community, but women actually came from all over the country to be at that event. And that's just something that I'm super passionate about and that I love doing. The creative process to create an event. It's extremely needed, I think, just from my perspective, in every community that we live in. If you have an itch to host something, I think it's more important than ever to collaborate with people that are in your community, to put people in a room, having conversations, doing amazing things. I think it's more important than ever. And so, that's something that I that I've done that I'm really proud of and that I think is extremely needed.
Well, I think the way that you show up online and then the following that you get from the content you're sharing. I mean, it's easy to see how amazing these women could be in a room together. I mean, I was telling you this, I think, the other day is if I could have all the people I've met online be in one space, I would be so freaking happy. And I know not everyone can make an event, but to have women that care about the same things, that have the same kind of heart, that connect about the same things and be in a physical room. What
Mm-hmm.
was the energy like? That to me, I think is everything is like that energy that you feel and just the
Mm-hmm.
vibe of that space. What did that
Mm.
feel like?
We're working on an event right now for October, which I'll share with you in a little bit. But
Yeah.
I always say when I'm creating an event, the women that come to our community events, they
Mhm.
lean in with their whole heart. I just always feel like when I look around at these events and when I collaborate with people, I'm like, these people are all in. They're all in with all of their heart. And so the energy that's in the room every single time is it's hard to explain. It's just the most beautiful thing. It's when
Yeah.
good people come together and it's sharing sometimes really hard things. I don't know. I think it's extremely important. I hate to be so dramatic to say that it's life changing, but I do think it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I've had some events where people have come up to me at the end and they share things with me. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so humbled by it. I'm thinking I'm throwing maybe a book launch or a dinner party or hosting a viewing for Between the Mountain and the Sky. And I'm thinking, this is no big deal. It's obviously important. Yes, but it's easy for me to do it. It's from my heart. It's a yes.
Sure.
I usually only do things that are like hell yeses at this point. But in
Mhm.
the back end of it, when the events are usually complete, I get these back stories of why someone came or what they
Yeah.
got out of it or
Yeah.
the connection that they had with maybe somebody else at the event. And
Yeah.
it's literally life changing for people. And my mind's blown by it every time. I'm
I
like,
bet.
events are a lot of work. They're a lot of work. They're a lot of
Sure.
stress. It takes a lot of my family and people come along to support me to do some of these things. But yeah, the energy and the needles that I think are moved and things that transpire
Mhm.
after they're completed is just, I don't know. It reminds you of this is literally why we're all here. This is what life's about.
Yeah.
This is it.
When you sit back and you think about of all the people that have been born on this earth since the beginning of time, and you and I are here at this exact moment for just this
Mm,
itty bitty space. I mean, in the
mm,
grand scheme of that, it's so small. And how lucky are we that I got to know you and you got to know all these women you've had these
mm,
connections with. You've got Libby, Elena in your circles, and you've got Landon. Like, what? Like, how can we even comprehend that we
mm,
got to share this snippet in time? So when
mm,
there's things about life that are annoying and something inconvenient happened, whatever, I have to go back and look at I'm on this earth right now in this very moment with this family that I've got, with these
mm,
friends that I have, with this
mm,
life that I have, that little thing, that little inconvenience, not that big of a
mm,
deal. And I
mm,
think about friendships because I think right now midlife is a really hard time. And because you're kind of growing out of old friendships because maybe the kids were the connectors or the activities
mm,
or proximity, whatever things change. And what's kept me going is realizing people are going to come in and come out. Like I don't have to grip everybody so tight. They're not meant to
mhm,
be here forever. I mean, I'm not
mm,
meant to be in their lives forever.
mhm.
But how cool to be, even for a snippet, to know somebody and have this conversation or whatever that is before it's all said and done.
Do you feel like the more you lean into, it's like you're awakened, like all these things that you talk about,
Oh,
the
yeah.
more you lean in with your whole heart,
Yeah.
these right people, these right conversations just start happening. I
Yeah.
mean, I always felt like I started leaning in harder when I turned 40, when I went through my health crisis, when the pandemic happened. There was just too many things that I was not willing to stay asleep. I was not willing to be in relationships
Yeah.
that just
Yeah.
didn't bear fruit of any sort. There was all
That's
these
right.
things like being awakened, like what you talk about. The
Mhm.
more I lean into it, the more aligned friendships or relationships I have. It's not that I only want the good things. I can't take things that go sideways in relationships. It's not that I can't go through hard things, but
Sure.
there's
Sure.
a huge difference at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like the more I've leaned in the last 4 or 5 years, there's clarity in almost everything, not just friendships, relationships in general. And I feel really, really incredibly blessed to have. I always tell my daughter Reese this, who's 16, she's going through a lot of stuff right now in her own life with
Hmm.
friends, which is really typical and common for teenage
Sure.
girls. But you're lucky to have like 2 or 3 really good friends in life. You
Yeah.
don't need a lot, these big cliques and these things that you want to be part of. I know it seems really important, so cliche to say, but as a 45-year-old woman, I'm still saying it to myself. I really
Yeah.
only need a couple of really good friends and leaning hard into that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hit 40, same thing happened to me. I was like, wow, what's my second half going to look like? And I started to really question things I was saying yes to. And I was going through some life changes in that time frame as well. But I was like, I'm saying yes to a lot of shit I do not want to do. Why?
Mm,
Why am I doing this? To make everybody else happy and to satisfy everybody else. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done doing that. And
mm,
I think that's the best thing about getting older. I don't know if you've seen this or felt this, but honoring your own wishes and honoring what you want to do. Oh my gosh. I think it's just women. I don't think men have these conversations with themselves about it because they do whatever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want to do it, it seems like. But I feel like as moms, we're always like, hey, backseat, backseat, backseat for a lot of things. And then when we start to finally put ourselves in the driver's seat,
mm,
it's like, oh my gosh, I never wanted to do that. And why did I say
mm,
yes all these years? And
mm.
so starting to finally say no to things. And if that closed doors to some relationships, then so be it. If they didn't bring me joy, then what was I doing?
Right, right.
And so, yeah, so I totally agree. I just felt like 40 was sort of that time to reassess and
Mm-hmm.
figure out what do I really want? And that's been sort of the question all along since then has been, okay, put everything else aside. What
Mm-hmm.
is it that I want? And
Mm-hmm.
that's where this awake, well, and empowered thing came from me too, is just what are my desired feelings in life? How do I want to show up and how do I want to feel in my daily life? And those were the three
Mm,
things that created the filter for me. And what I'm finding is there's so many women out there that as we're going through these changes and as we're starting to cut things away, it can be a little bit of a lonely place
mm,
because now here you are saying no to all these things, but where's the yes? Where's the
mm-hmm.
yeses? Where are they going to come from? And you have
Mm-hmm.
to sort of start over sometimes
Mm-hmm.
to create that. Are you finding that's where you're at right now?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you feel like you're right where you want to be with your
Yeah.
relationships?
I think when you're in this, I always go back to time. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you're mentioning all these things, but I always go back to like, there's just not enough time, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
reevaluation and redistributing your time, your energy, your talents, your money, all of it, you take inventory of everything. And
Yeah.
so when you do that, just like what you said, when you say no to all these things that don't feel aligned, I always say there's not enough time.
Yeah.
There's
I know.
just not enough time. There isn't,
I know.
especially if you're going through something, which we're all going through stuff. Yeah. So it can be lonely. Like you're saying no to a lot of things, you're realigning, you're trying
Yeah.
to find these relationships that are more sacred and where you can give your time and your energy. And like that doesn't always come. I'm the biggest believer in that when doors close or when you actually close those doors, another one is for sure going to open. I'm such a
Mm-hmm.
believer in that. When you cut out all these things in your life, it's like just factual in my own life. Like, I don't want to say bigger and better, but just these new opportunities, these new
Yeah.
relationships, like you just have space, you have time to explore things that
Yes.
feel more aligned. But I do think that there's like this interim area where it can be lonely, like for
Yeah.
sure. And I'd love to hear, if you've been through anything like this, but when you put your life on social media and you classify yourself as an influencer, even though I don't like calling myself that. Like if you
Yeah.
put yourself out there, you're
Yeah.
creating a podcast, you're sharing on Instagram, you're
Mm-hmm.
posting pictures of your family or your trips or whatever it is,
Yeah.
your small business, whatever it is, if you're putting yourself out there, literally your face, your voice, your heart,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think immediately you're going to be judged. And there's this exterior, whether it's in your own immediate community, sometimes it could be even be in your family, of
Yep.
people that don't understand it. Maybe
Yeah.
they're not called to do something like that, so they don't understand it. I don't know what it is, but for 10 years, I have always felt that a
Yeah.
little alone in that, where it's like,
Yes.
I wear my heart on my sleeve. I show up and I get a loud, raspy voice and I have a little light in my soul. But you show up and you have it too. Like you have a light. And for so long, I've dimmed that light to make other people feel comfortable,
Yes. Yes.
and then I show up online and I'm not thinking this, but it might be perceived as like, look at me, look at me,
Yeah.
look at my life. But again, I'm showing you typically a minute or 2 minutes of my life. There's so much more to it. But the moment I think you step into sharing more or really putting yourself out there, it can be a lonely place. It can be
Yeah.
a lonely place. And it can be a place where you can be criticized. Or I have found that I don't get a ton, but I do get negative feedback, not just
Mm-hmm.
online and on Instagram and through DMs, but even in the community that I've lived in. I've lived in this small little town north of Boston for 20 years. I've raised my kids
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
there's a lot of women in my town that follow me and that are part of my community. And some I think are rooting me on and really like me and see my heart's good. And then I think there's quite a handful of women that might not like me. And that's
Sure.
fine too. That used to trip me up a little bit, but at this point, it doesn't anymore. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about it at all. But that just goes back to your question. Yes, like that's kind of a lonely place sometimes. That can put things in your heart and your mind in question. Where are my real true friends? All these things kind of go through my mind over the course of the
Yes.
last 10 years. Like
Yeah.
that comes with the territory of, I think, showing up.
For sure. And, you know, I think you see this probably too, is that when you're online, and for me, I had a personal account. Like I had a
Mm.
personal account, and then I decided to create a public account. So I made a separate account. And initially I was like, I don't want anybody over there to follow me over here. Because then I felt like, oh, they're going to go, who in the hell is she? What is she doing? Why is she doing this? And so I started blocking some people. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to worry about that, whatever. But I will see people that consistently watch things from my,
Yes.
everyday life, people that I know.
Yes.
But no one ever comments, no one says anything, they never share anything. And it's just sort of interesting. I don't know what that's about, but I catch myself sometimes too. I know that we get busy and it's the scroll and you kind of just move on and you don't think about it. But, if we had a fraction of the people that follow us and pay attention to what we're doing to either send a quick little note or an encouragement or anything. Yeah, so it's sort of weird. I've had more connections with strangers, people that have commented and shared, than people I know in my daily life. And I'm like, it is what it is. I mean, even
It is
family.
what it is.
Even
Yeah, I
family
hear
doesn't
you.
get it. But I think the most important thing about being on here is that you're honoring your own voice. You're honoring who you want to be. And I think the same thing. I think I got on here because I wanted to talk about other stuff than my kids and our daily life. I wanted to talk about other things that were completely outside of all that. And I didn't know how to do that. I was going to be bipolar in the content. So I had to make a whole other account. And I felt more myself, honestly, on this account and what I'm doing now in the podcast, because I'm talking to the person that needs to hear me. The person that's listening, waiting for that message, or the one that's been waiting to hear our conversation, or the person that's been struggling with menopause or whatever the thing is that I talk about, and not think about people that I know watching. I have to just take that out of my mind. Because otherwise I'll censor myself, and I'm not here to censor
Right.
myself for their
Right.
comfort. I need to just speak my truth and talk about what I want to talk about. And it is what it is. So I totally feel you on that. Even though my following is very, very small compared to yours, we have the same, I think, outlook on it. And I don't ever consider myself an influencer. I want to build a community of amazing women that feel seen and heard and can send me a DM and we'll have a conversation. I love the DMs. I'm always about replying. The only thing I don't reply to is I haven't seen it. I'm like, oh shit, I missed it. It's in this other file and I didn't see it. So I'm so sorry. And so I reply back. But I love the DMs. That's where I like to have my quick little, God, that's so crazy you did that. I was telling you this before, I think the last conversation. If I was sitting in the room with you, you shared something and I laughed and I said, oh my gosh, that's hilarious, or whatever that thing is, I will reply that in DMs to you a lot of times, or to whoever I'm watching, because that's what I would say to you in person if I was sitting with you. And that's how we make connection. We're having a conversation the best we can on this app, right?
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
I feel the same way when there's quite a few women that I talk to, I feel like on a daily basis,
Yeah.
but like, who I've never met actually in person.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, and the one-liners, and when they get my humor, my dirty music or whatever it is, like, I'm like, these are my people.
That's right.
Yeah, it's such a joy. It goes back to what we started the conversation with, is social media. In my opinion, it's been around for more than 10 years. Obviously, Instagram specifically has been around for probably 12, 15 years, whatever it is. But I think we have been learning as we go, like how to show up authentically, how to connect with people authentically, how to inspire people. Like you had said that earlier. I go on the app sometimes because obviously I'm a creator, you're a creator, we're creating things, we're having conversations, we're connecting with people, but I also consume. And I consume content on a daily basis. And when I consume it, I'm either laughing because it's over something just so funny because the memes are hysterical, or something that really inspires me or enlightens me. And so in the beginning, I can't say that that's what I was always using it for. I think I was using it for connection, but I feel incredibly inspired when I'm on the app. And I think if you utilize it the right way, it can benefit your life. It can bring you connections. It can bring you inspiration. It can bring you knowledge. Obviously, there's another whole side of this conversation that we haven't really talked about, especially because I know your kids aren't teenagers anymore, but I'm teenagers to early 20s. Like this conversation for them and that generation of kids that are growing up is a little even more complex than the conversation that we're having, because
Yeah.
we're adults and we know how to navigate things with probably much more discernment than they do. So
Yeah.
like the conversation around social media, it's been a joy to be on it and connect with people and do all these creative things the last 10 years. But there is another whole side of it that if you're not on the right algorithm or you're not utilizing it the right way, it can be very toxic and detrimental to your
Yes.
mental health.
Yes.
Right. And that goes for
Yeah.
women and men and children of all ages, because I think there's women that show up on the app and they're not in a good place, and the comparison conversation starts coming into their head, and it's a very complex thing. But what I've been noticing over the last 10 years, and this is what I want to conclude with about the social media conversation, is that being a consumer on Instagram, specifically what I consume, I've learned over 10 years on what not to consume. And that goes like back to like what I just said, it's just discernment. If there's something on social media that does not feel right or bring me joy, it could be anything from a mom blogger to political stuff. We all have the privilege to be able to press unfollow or decide. And it feels like after all these years, I've kind of really honed into the things that bring me joy, that inspire me, and the women that I get to connect with. And I'm going to ride that wave.
No kidding. No kidding. I know, because there's enough going on in the world. I don't need to get on an app and then consume all the horrible things that are happening. We're not meant to know all this. We've heard this enough times that like we're not meant to know all of these things all at once. It's just too much for the system. There's no way.
Right. You had touched upon this earlier, and it's been on my heart for a while. The event that I had shared with you back in February 2020, From the Heart, I've created many events since that. But when you had shared, like, wouldn't it be just so incredible to bring all these women into a room? That has been on my heart for a really long time.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what it looks like, if it's you, me, or Olivia, what it looks like. I work on small events with people that feel very aligned all the time, but I would love to create something at some point in the near future where we can bring women into a room. It's something I'm passionate about. I know you are too. This podcast that you've asked me to be on, it's such a beautiful conversation where I feel very connected. And it's like, oh gosh, we got to be in the same room. I don't want to just like, we could go on vacation and do something really fun, but like,
totally.
How incredible would it be if we could execute an event, which we have the tools to do that. To bring women that are connecting and having these wonderful conversations online on podcasts into a room. Like, what does that look like? Like what a blessing it could be for so many people, because with social media, AI and all these things, like it connects us, but the in-person connection, I mean, there's nothing better than that. It's needed. If we're going to do it online and do all these things that are extremely important, but like, oh gosh, we got to all be in the same room. We got to figure something out.
Yes. Well, this is just like, it's sort of the introduction. This is just the beginning. I'm all for it, sister. I'm not the most organized. I have ADHD at the wazoo. And so I could use your sister in my life, because I am just so not like, I can come up with all the ideas. The execution is a whole other thing.
Same. My sister and I, we call it the nuts and bolts. She takes care of the nuts and bolts. And we come up with the idea and execute and invite anybody that wants to be in the room to be in the room, to be inspired, to connect, and to do all the things. So let's figure that out soon.
I would love to. I'd love to. And then before we finish, I want to ask you about October. What's going on in October that we need to kind of keep our ears and eyes open for?
Well, I have one event with my dear friend, Christine Steinberg, who runs Kismet Consulting. And then my friend, Abby Batchelder, who owns Jopifine Foods. The event is called Unspoken. It's actually a really small container. It's only meant for 10 women, but we're going to hope to create it on a quarterly basis. So there'll be one in October. There'll be another one in the new year, and then one in the late spring, and then one next summer. So it's called Unspoken. It's for men or women, but I'm finding women are embracing it a little bit more at this point. But Christine is an executive leadership coach, and her and I had a session about a year ago, because I've been meeting with her for a while. And I had shared some unspoken things about myself and my life that I'd never shared with anybody. And it's been a little bit of a breakthrough this past year for me. And so we just talked about like creating that opportunity for other women to share something in a vulnerable, safe container, to break through the barrier of what might be holding them back. And so that's this October. We're also working with Libby and my friend Bridget on a joy event. It's called Joy Sessions. That's going to be in October as well too. That's a much bigger event, but more information on that is coming very soon. But that will be, again, whoever wants to be there is welcome and invited. And hopefully there'll be more after that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I might have to just move to Newburyport because it sounds like I need to be
Yes.
at all these things because this is ridiculous. I can't believe I'm this far away from you. This is dumb. Well, I can't wait. I will put all the links in the show notes of obviously where to find
Thank
you.
you.
Where can they find the information about the upcoming October stuff? Where would be the
Yep.
best place to keep up on that?
Goes
Okay.
through the Instagram channel. I wish I had a blog. I wish I had a website, but I channel everything through Instagram at this point, and everything will be shared through a link and a website that's Christina's facilitating with more information about the event. But yeah, MaryJo Anderson _ at Instagram.com.
Yeah. No longer Port to Palm. It's actually
No
MaryJo.
longer Port
Yeah.
to Palm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was just going to say, I followed you back because of Landon. That's how I found you, of course. And I'm going to gush about you for a second again. I've loved watching you show up in a space where you have given us just enough of joy and your daily life. And like we said earlier, it's not everything, right? Which we don't need everything, but it's been enough to make you and your family feel like it's our family. I love your children. You don't know this. I love your children. And I'm sitting here going, oh, little Bryce. But I feel like I know your family. And so I'm very thankful that you shared them with us because they are the sweetest kids. I remember Reese's birthday and when Bryce took her and she roller skated in that little room. I mean, like, what? And now she's 16. I feel like they're my children as I've watched them grow up. So I know that's a really weird thing for someone that's a stranger to say, but I feel very tuned into your family. And it's been such a joy to watch all parts of it. The good, the bad, the health issues, all those things that have come across your plate because that's life. But I'm so happy that you're out there sharing it because we need more MaryJos in the world because it's been so delightful to like open my phone and go, oh, there's the sunrise. Because I don't see the sunrise at my house. So
that is so incredibly kind. Seriously, that is so incredibly kind for you to say that. Like, I don't want to cry. That means the world to me. Sometimes the social media thing, they'll ask questions. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think any of us do, but we show up, right?
Yeah.
We keep showing up. And so
it
means just the world to me to feel seen.
Yeah.
And,
you're just your authentic self.
I love you.
Yeah. I love you too. I can't even tell you
so much.
Well,
really.
I told a couple of friends a couple of years ago, even I think it was, we were initially going to talk on the podcast and then things happened and life happened and whatever, and didn't get it done. And they were like, you're having MaryJo. I go, I know. I don't know how this happened, but it's going to happen. And so now that it's finally here, I feel so grateful that you said yes. And I'm so honored to know you in this way because I think you are truly one of the lights in this world that I rely on every day to keep me focused forward and not like, oh, the world. You showing up and sharing your little corner of the world has been such a joy. So thank you for doing that. I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. Yeah.
Thank you. The feeling is very mutual. I hope you know that.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so, so much. Really. Yeah. I love you, sister.
I love you too. We'll get this thing going. We're going to figure this out. Now that you planted this, I'm like, okay, if she's in, we're going to figure out how to get some awake, well, and empowered women together.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
We'll talk offline another time, but I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Talk soon.
All right.
Bye, sweetheart. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you found this episode either helpful, inspiring, entertaining, or just made you feel less alone. Or maybe all of those things. If so, I'd love it if you'd share this episode with a friend, as well as on your social media. And if I dare ask for more, to rate and review the podcast on your favorite platform, especially Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You see, the more reviews we have, the more people we can reach, and the bigger the Odd Life community can become. You guys are the best. I can't wait to chat again next week, so we'll see you then.